Oh, hey everybody. For those who've already joined and don't know me, I'm David Warner. I'm a technical specialist at Zeiss Cinema. I work out of our showroom in Sherman Oaks, which is what you see here. We decided instead of you just looking at my face static in my office, we're going to get you up and around our demo space and show you what we have to offer here to cinematographers, but also to rental houses that want to send over some of their techs or potentially send clients that are based in LA over here for extended testing that you guys may not have the space and time for on a busy day, or they're closer to us in Sherman Oaks than they are to you for any reason. For we just like to hang out personally. So send over your text. We have a projector room that I'll show you later. We have a theater, and we have demo pieces of all of our lenses. After I give you guys a quick tour of our space, I'll also talk to you about some of the new things that we have coming. Some of you may have heard about a merger that we have with a particular camera tracking company that will change our space a little bit in the coming months. So after the tour, I'll tell you a little bit more about that. And then I can take some questions from you guys on how we can be a resource to you. So pretty much every day we do demos in this space that start with a very similar tour to the one I'm about to give you. In addition to being Zeiss's Cinema showroom, we're also an official gallery of the Society of Motion Picture Still Photographers, which are the gallery prints you see here and throughout some of our offices. They're behind the scenes photos from movies and television shows that shot on Zeiss glass. Just under these gallery prints, we also have some museum pieces from throughout Zeiss's history. Far left is a microscope. As a lot of you may know, Zeiss started as a company as a microscope workshop in Germany, Jena originally. Our headquarters are now in Oberkochen, but we've been around for roughly 176 years since the time of our original microscope workshop. A lot of the techniques that they built through making those microscopes for different magnifications are similar to the techniques that they developed for focal lengths and camera lenses. Our first camera lens division was in 1890. This zoom is a 10 to 100. Shout out to Duclos for loaning this one to us. You guys know Duclos well as someone who sells our modern lenses, but also modifies vintage lenses for modern use. And to the right of that, we have some old cinema bodies that Zeiss designed. Little known fact that alongside the Zeiss Icon series, Zeiss had the Mauve Icon, which were cinema cameras. Way across over here, we also have another piece of history, the Pathé Studio camera from 1915. And it still has its original Zeiss lens affixed to it inside. So we zigzag back across the space. We have some of our history in still optics over here and a few awards we've won over the years. Chief among them are HPA awards for extended data and SynCraft Mapper. It'll become more important as I talk to you about some of our VFX and virtual production facing products that we'll be coming out with in the coming months. And then our modern lenses live over here. Lenses for photo, including the Loxia, Milvis, and Otis. We have our CP3 XDs. We have a nice little nod to the long partnership between Zeiss and Arri. Everybody loves Oscars. We have one here from the Variable Primes in 1999. Next to that, we have all of our zooms, and of course, our flagship, the Supreme Prime. So here's where we have the meat of our demo, a lot of testing. For instance, if people want to test for a particular project, they can come here. We have all the industry standard cameras we could fit in here at once. We have an Alexa LF, we have a Red V Raptor XL, Sony Venice Original, Komodo, Black Magic in the corner, and a bunch of other cameras that we essentially didn't have table space for, but anything that they want to see, we can demo for them here, including full sets of all our current offerings. On the other side of the space, something that'll be a little more interesting to our rental lens techs, we have all culminating in a 9-seat 4K theater. When you pull these curtains, it is essentially a black box theater, very close. But here we can show people examples of things shot on our lenses. We have a very well curated YouTube channel, Zeiss Cinematography on YouTube, which has playlists for every single one of our lens lines. So if ever you or a client wants to see particular examples shot on our lenses, we have all of that there for them, filled with videos from around the globe. And also, it's pretty great during festival season. We get to watch a lot of the shorts that we award at South by and Sundance, for instance. So now I want to take a second to talk to you guys about what is coming from the Zeiss Cinema showroom. So earlier this week, we announced that we are partnering with Ncam via a merger with the company. They do camera tracking for VFX and virtual production traditionally, a lot of it focused on broadcast, but they also have a long history in cinema. We're trying to grow that part of the business by giving people camera tracking hardware that links with our extended data system for our cinema primes. And we'll then, as a stretch goal, we'll continue to build a virtual lens library that you're able to use for previs, match move, and for virtual production that will be plug and play with our lenses and that camera tracking software. So as we reorganize the space, we will be able to demo the new Ncam system in our prep bay over here. We'll have a VFX style corner where it's more of a green screen cyclorama where you can test out the camera tracking while also using Ncam software. So if you guys have any questions, now would be a great time. I can't really see you, but you can see me. Sure, we can take a look at some lenses. So generally for demos, I'll have a bunch of Supreme Prime Radiance and Supreme Prime out. A lot of our demos are either high-end cinematographers that would regularly use these and want to take a deeper look at them, but then also we get a lot of college classes and aspiring cinematographers who aspire to use these lenses and want more high-end optical knowledge. We also have our CP3s, our zooms, and even our Otis for cinema cameras with EF mounts, Komodo being one of those. Over here, of course, we have a Fresnel hitting this radiance, so you can see the blue flares that the radiance produces. And then the ultra wide look of the 15 Supreme Prime on Alexa OpenGate. And that's pretty much the tour. Yeah, so if anyone has any questions about how we could potentially be a resource to you, or any general questions in general, actually, about our lenses or our capabilities here, or the coming Ncam product, you can let us know here in the chat, but also we're all available. You can find me here at david.warner@zeiss.com. Always open to answer any technical questions or help out with any situations you guys may have, potential needs for service or service training, and anything like that.
We have a question in the chat. Is it possible to go by with our own camera and try out some of your lenses?
We absolutely encourage you to bring your own cameras in to test our lenses on whatever camera you're comfortable shooting or may own. We're here to test anything. Also, a question that I get frequently, like if I regularly shoot with Cook lenses, can I bring my Cook lens even though you guys are Zeiss? Absolutely, you can. We're really here as a educational space and a sounding board and a place to test things. I've had tests here that include Canon, Cook, Ingenue lenses. Everything is welcome. We just want to educate people on our lenses in hopes that they test them and potentially use them. I'm a cinematographer myself, honestly. I use other lenses. Don't tell Germany. But yeah, we would love you to bring by any camera that you use for sure. Oh, yeah, for sure. So metadata is extremely important to us at Zeiss for sure. All the way back to the days of using LDS through our partnership with ARRI to now having extended data. So what extended data is essentially our version of the Cook/I protocol. So it will do all the things that Cook/I does in terms of telling you lens family, focus and iris position, interest pupil position, all these things. What we add in our particular process is dynamic shading and distortion characteristics. These become extremely important for VFX and virtual production, where you may have live compositors or you want your DIT to do live lens corrections, all the way up to manipulating a frustum with accurate lens distortion and shading characteristics. So our CP3XD, our Supreme Prime and Supreme Prime Radiance all come with that extended data. We have a software called SimCraft Mapper, which capitalizes on our distortion and shading characteristics. What SimCraft Mapper does is it takes a sequence in any standard RAW codec that includes Red Code RAW, ARRI RAW, and Sony's RAW codecs, and you essentially drag and drop your sequence into this software and it creates distortion maps and shading maps that you can use in Nuke, Flame, or any other compositing software that uses ST maps. And then capitalizing on that even further, you have the coming Ncam products, which will create essentially a virtual lens library where you can access all of the lens characteristics and metadata of a lens and capitalize on that in previs, match move, and even live virtual productions. So we are really committed to making metadata more accessible throughout the workflow. Right now, there are certain pinch points where metadata isn't getting through in the way that it should. So some of my colleagues have even gone as far as to being on committees with SMPTE to standardize lens metadata and how it's passed through in the workflow. So metadata is always incredibly important to us because it's incredibly important to the artists that are working on these large VFX heavy, virtual production heavy shoots. Like I said, we're pretty amorphous over here, pretty flexible. So any questions you have or any needs you have, let us know and we'll definitely try to help as best we can. That's really the entire ethos of this space, is to be sort of half clubhouse, half lab, so that people can learn everything they need to use all the tools at their disposal to create the best work that they can. So our newest lens with a unique lens profile would be the Supreme Prime Radiance. They debuted just before the pandemic. So really we're just getting into the true adoption period for those lenses. Here we have a specific display for Supreme Prime Radiance. Supreme prime radiance is a variant of the supreme prime, which has a new coding formula called T star blue on a few of the elements near the rear of the lens. Depending on focal length, it's 3 to 5 surfaces that are treated with T star blue. And what T star blue does is reflect a narrow band of blue, which creates the blue flares that you see in the example images here. Because that little bit of blue isn't reaching the film plane, you also get an overall warmer image, sort of our answer to the growing trend of vintage lens use, where some of the most sought after characteristics of vintage lenses would be blue flares and warm skin tones. So we gave you guys a version of our flagship lens that has those blue flares and a warmer tone. This comes in 11 focal lengths, 18 to 135, all T15. So we are more focused on cinema. Ncam does an amazing job in the broadcast space. So for broadcast, at least initially, it'll be sort of business as usual. There will be access to the new Zeiss Ncam cinema style camera tracker for broadcast. And of course, anything that you could access through our partnership with Ncam and our plug and play solution with the lenses would also be viable for broadcast. But broadcast generally has certain needs that don't necessarily overlap with the needs of, say, an episodic like The Mandalorian or other narrative test cases. But of course, the system is essentially at its root the same. So broadcast clients would be able to access anything that we're doing on the cinema side with the Zeiss Ncam merger. So yearly, we always have Zeiss trainings at Able Cine, which will go through pretty much anything that you would have to do on a day-to-day basis with a Zeiss lens, including tear downs, having to like recenter lenses and all that. Um, for us here at the demo center, we are able to, for instance, have you come in and take a look at the lenses on a projector if you've never been exposed to them, or we can give you loaners, for instance, if you have a lens that goes down and you need a loaner for a couple days. We have a loan program here where we can loan you a focal length of a certain lens to hold you over until you're able to get that other lens repaired, things like that. All of our warranty service goes through Able Cine. They're our partner in the Americas for service. So anything that you need to do with the lens would go through Able Cine. Here, we're more so educational and just a helping hand if you need a loaner, for instance. We have helped houses that are growing and installing new service hardware in terms of like just consulting with them and sending them in the right direction. If you have questions on which projectors to get, what type of paint to put on a wall, for instance, those are things that we could also consult on. It's extremely easy. It's actually very, very easy. The one thing that you will need is the particular cabling. And if you go to our site, we can help you find where to buy that specific cable, but you would just need to have a computer with the firmware update software on it. You plug your lens in via the extended data port into that computer, and it's as easy as updating any app on your computer, and it will update it. You'll need tools to open the port and set the encoder to update, but that's also very easy. It's 4 screws, and then you get in there and you flip one switch, you put the extended data port back on the lens, plug it in, and hit update, and it will update your firmware. And through that, you can also check if your metadata is coming through the port correctly and your encoder is working correctly inside the lens. I've had situations where I had to go to set because the lens was showing incorrect metadata. You can plug it into the computer and see what metadata is coming out of it and judge whether or not you need to update it or reload the firmware or if you have an encoder failure. We'll get our information over to you guys in terms of all of our contact emails, and there's also a link through Calendly where you can set up your own demo time. Generally, our demos take place Tuesday through Friday afternoons, Tuesday through Thursday afternoon or Friday morning, generally. But as always, we're flexible to your busy schedules. I know as a former rental house tech myself, it's hard to get away on a weekday. But let us know when you have time if you want to come in and we'll set something up for you guys. Of course, thank you guys for your time. I look forward to meeting anyone who's on the call that I've never met before. Come by the demo center and we'll hang out and nerd out about lenses.